Virtual Man back at it again. All the systems for the RetroPie, including OpenBore. 11,000 just about titles, everything from MAME arcade to old school arcade to special collections. As I mentioned, OpenBore, CD-based games, Sega CD, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, all the stuff that's going to play great on the Raspberry Pi 3 is going to work for this. This image is a totally made from scratch image, so it's going to work for the Raspberry Pi 3A, the 3B, and the 3B Plus. It's also meant for future Raspberry Pi 4s. Hopefully we'll get one. I know the rumors say 2020 in all the interviews. But when that finally does come out, whenever it does come out, this is a future thinking image. It has every single add-on you could possibly think of, and it's so easy. This is by far the easiest RetroPie build I've ever seen. We're going to get into that in a second, but they have categories on all the options. They have all the pre-installed loading screens, bezels, and if you don't like that stuff, which in the past it's like, oh yeah, get this image because it has all the bells and whistles and everything on it. Yes, they all do come stock on, but as I mentioned, you'll be able to go into the option menu here and turn off all the shaders or reset the shaders or install bezels, install the bezel project, switch out the resolution, switch out emulator cores. All that stuff is a click away. You don't need a keyboard for a lot of the stuff. Like 95% of the things in this image you do not need a keyboard for. So as far as like just blinged out, this is, what is it? We're on rhodium now. If you want to know about rhodium, it's a rare metal, it's a gem, and I have to say, this is 10 plus iterations of Pi builds put into this one. So it really has been gone over with a white glove on every single aspect of it. And so for all those reasons, I'm really excited to jump into this one. But I just want to give this intro out that I know this is going to be a great one. I've been playing around with it a little bit. I've seen some videos of other people testing it out, and it is a clean image. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So as I mentioned, this is the stock theme, but Super Mario is awesome. I love it, cool theme. And when you go into your UI settings here, you could do it Mario, Marvel vs. Capcom, Mega Man, Metal Slug, you name it, you could probably find a sweet version of it. But for this video, I want to go ahead and just do Hey Chromie. It's a cool theme. It's also just really user friendly, and you could see a lot of stuff, easier to read the fonts and things like that. So that's why I'm gonna go ahead and just switch over to that for this video. But it has your favorites installed. It has these collections over here, and then you have your systems as well. If you want to get rid of the collections, it's easy to do that in RetroPie already. And before I get into all the games though, what makes this image so great, and I'll give you the down and dirty when you first get started. When you do boot, it is going to auto expand. Wait a couple minutes. Go ahead and turn off your Pi when you see a little a dash in the upper left hand corner. After you do that, turn it off, turn it back on. It'll then prompt you to install your controls. This does have a track mode. We could switch to a track mode if we want. We could do that later. This is a Playbox-based image, so it's a Raspbian base with a RetroPie front end on it, and it is totally built from scratch. Virtual Man did a lot of work on here. He does give a shout out to 2Play for all the Playbox toolkit here and the Playbox scripts. So good on both of them for contributing, make some great contributions to RetroPie. And what that is you have all these scripts from repair your jukebox, repair your music folder, free system memory, update, all sorts of scripts already pre-built in. So it's just from a click of a button, you don't even need a keyboard. And then they categorize all this here. If you want anything with emulation, You will want to run this Riecast date and time fix right off the bat if you're going to be playing some Riecast. There is a new emulator for that, but if you want to add a light gun, it's really easy. If you want to add Zinmo, for those of you who are putting this in a Pandora's box, or you're running this off of a bar top, really easy to do, get into RetroArch really easily. So all your emulation, it's already cataloged for you. So it's almost as simple as going to Google. You know, it's all easy. If it's a network issue, go into network. Everything from your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi, what's my IP address to transfer additional ROMs, whatever you want to do. You have system tools over here, overclock scripts, all that stuff you've seen on previous builds, nice and organized, visuals and themes. Bezel Project is enabled for arcade games. If you want the Bezel Project for Super Nintendo, for example, you just go to Bezel Project, go ahead and enable that. You might have to download it, but download and then enable it. Launch screens are already set up, but if you want to change your own, you can. Splash screens already set up, and he's got some really cool custom splash screens he made himself, Virtual Man. You can turn those on or off, borrow them, add some of your own, do like a shuffle, totally easy to do. And then these other options here are pretty standard on other builds. So let's just go ahead and jump into it from options. ScummVM over 96 games, all in English, so you don't have to worry about, you know, some of these other like Nacho's image and some Galistio's image. Those tend to be in Portuguese or another language, or Spanish, or, you know, depending on the creator. These are the US releases, so a lot of people are going to like that. It does say Genesis. You can, you know, switch this out to say Mega Drive if you want, but 32Xs. Sega CD, not all of them, but a majority. Also, while we're going, I forgot, I have a couple more things I want to say. One is the size of the image is 233 gigabytes, which equates to 251 billion, 11 million, and 114,000 bytes. I'm running this on a SanDisk Ultra 256 gigabyte. Samsung or SanDisk are both good brands, and I want to say the 256 is the new 128 gigabyte image because they're so cheap now. One, and you know, the download's not that much bigger. I have to say, like, 400 gig is now really cheap, but it's still a huge download. 400 gigs, 256 is a lot. So that's why I say the 256 is the new 128. I think 400 is kind of a stretch for a lot of people. Um, what else do we have here? You should have screensavers on here. Yeah, you hit select. You have oh, he's got his own custom screensavers here. You hit select, select. Yeah, there's another one. Select. There's another one. Select. There's another one. Beautiful. All right, cool. So custom screensavers on there as well. And then I mentioned earlier that Pi 3A, it does work for that. I'm going to try it on that particular Pi in a later video. Okay, so I think let's go ahead and keep it moving here. Super Nintendo, 788 games, so pretty much all of them. TurboGrafx 16, 99 of these. And as you see, you get a JPEG, and you get the video, and all the metadata is already scraped for you. That stuff's good to go. TurboGrafx CD 40, that's quite a bit of CD games here. So if you're wondering why 256 over 128, you know, once you get into CD-based games like PlayStation and TurboGrafx CD, they really start to add up on the game front. 26 Vectrex games, ZX Spectrum Sinclair 1200. These are going to be collections. You could turn these on and off by going to Start over here, Game Collection Settings, and then turning them on and off here into custom game. But I'm going to leave them all here for now. This is a stock image, so this is what you can expect to see, you know, if you were to use this image yourself. NES Classic, all the classic games that came in that release a few years ago. This is really cool. This is on all of his previous builds as well. The last few is he has his own Virtual Man arcade old school collections, and these are those old school arcade games, the classics. If you missed out on the pizzerias, the bowling alleys, the laser tag, you know, the Chuck E. Cheese's, you know, these are the type of games you'll find on those old school arcades. What you'd also find if you were to watch that Netflix Stranger Things, you know, that kind of stuff, Dig Dug, all that fun stuff. And they're all running really good. So if you are running a bar top build, you know, that old school arcade or a vertical, something like that, there's a cool little collection there for you. Shoot 'em up games, another collection. SNES Classic, which came after the NES Classic collection. And this is just an organization of the games. So Star Fox 2 should be in there, for example, and the other games that that you would expect that were on the SNES Classic. Sonic games, Street Fighter games, Zelda games, and then all games, almost 1,100. Moving along, Amiga 842. You may have to change your core for Amiga, start the emulator here at the top, and then just change the processor. It's really easy to do. Just go click on the emulator up here and then switch the processor, reset, you're done. Amiga CD 32, 65 games here. Arcade Classic. So this is all the MAME games. So it's going to include the arcade old school as well as a lot of those other arcade games. Think Mortal Kombat, Super Street Fighter, Simpsons arcade game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All that fun stuff is going to be here. It is a good arcade set. One of the questions I get a lot is what's a good image with a good arcade set? And I mean, that used to be a problem. You know, there was a lot of arcade sets out there. But I have to say that arcade sets have come a long way in the RetroPie scene, and they're just totally squared away. All the artwork is here, the metadata is here, the cores are pre-selected for you, so you don't have to do a lot of the legwork. It's all been done for you, running really great, and it's just amazing. I mean, this is like over 1,000 arcade machines in one little, one spot. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. If you were to tell this to somebody 10, 20 years ago, they'd be like, what? Their mind would be blown, right? Atari 2600, we got 630, 70, 158. Commodore 64, 64. ColecoVision 140. Daphne, you got probably not 11, do we? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, actually 11 games. And I believe he sets these all up to work with the controller off the bat. You know, a lot of times when you're installing these yourself for the first time, you're setting up an image. It takes a little bit of changing to get those all working. And then Dreamcast, you got 27 games because one of them is the emulator itself, so you got a -1 there. But some really great games on here, especially if you're overclocking. You can get some really good performance out of this. You can also now change the resolution as well, lower the resolution if the game is running kind of slow. All you do is press A when you launch your game, and then that'll help that out. It'll help the performance out quite a bit. Game & Watch, these are those little fun little mini games, pretty standard. Game Boy 558, Game Boy Advance 1026, and again, these are going to have your bezels, and the resolution is going to be preset for you, all ready to go. You know, I don't play a lot of Game Boy Advance, but if I was to play more, that's the way to play it. Game Boy Color 533. Again, Sega Genesis, you could change these to Mega Drive if you want, depending on which country you're from and which system you like to represent. But as you know, the titles are the same. And all the Genesis games in there, 784. Intellivision 137. This does have Kodi. There's also some streaming things on here if you want to stream from a media server. That stuff is available to you, and you can always add additional add-ons as well. But Kodi is working, so you can use your Raspberry Pi as a media center or stream, watch movies, listen to music, etc. There's also a jukebox function in RetroPie as well that you might want to use. Sega Master System 277, Nintendo 64 302. It's pretty much the majority of them. And I'd say Nintendo 64 performance has come a long way since the first image, like a Raze image or something like that. You can definitely play a lot more around with the emulators more, lower the resolutions, and overclocking the Pi. All that definitely helps. This is cool. You don't usually see this, the drastic emulator. A lot of people don't put this on the RetroPie images, so 57 Nintendo DS games. You can also add some additional games if you want. Neo Geo 140, pretty standard. Nintendo 781. And then here is the major update. So most of the systems I've talked about so far, pretty standard ROM packs, things like that. But he extended this from 5 games to 30 games. These do require a keyboard on first boot to set up your controls. These are fan-made games, but these are not just like joke games. They have multiple levels, boss fights, everything. They look great. OpenBore has definitely been, especially in the RetroPie community, has been kind of the rage in the last few months. A lot of people had been ignoring it. All of a sudden, everyone is really excited to check these out. I think it started with the Streets of Rage. I think that was one of the first. That was one of the first ones that were made for the RetroPie. Ports, you got some full games on here. Sea Dogs, Brutal Doom, Cave Story, Duke Nukem 3D, all the Quakes. And these are not the shareware versions, these are the full versions. So, just this right here, I know a lot of you DOS fans, MS-DOS fans, will have a ton of fun playing these old school DOS games. PSP Minis, there's a couple of good ones on here, and it looks like he left them in here. The ones that run good, they're fun. There's some Mahjong games and things like that for the PSP Mini that used to find just these ROM packs. These are kind of the best of the best. So that's cool to see that you still have some of these. You can add more if you like, but those are actually fun little games, especially if you have kids or something like that. They're the type of games you might typically see like on your cell phone or something like that, but they're fun. And then lastly, PlayStation. So I know everyone's all excited about Bleem and especially the PlayStation Classic. Like you can get them for $40 now. So that's still really, really cool. But RetroPie has always been there, has always had a good emulator for the PlayStation. Runs great even without an overclock. And here you go. I'm going to go ahead and just slightly go down this list, or go down the whole list. But as far as performance and things like that, they run great. They should be optimized already, but if you'd like, you can hit, select an X while you're in a game, go to RetroArch, and then go ahead and, edit any of there's like little slow mode hacks, high mode hacks, and some games will, tear less or just run a little smoother depending which one of those you have pre-selected. You can also change whether you want to use your analog stick or whether you want to use your D-pad, which some people prefer analog stick, some people prefer D-pad. Also note that with RetroPie, Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, both of your vibration, your feedback does work if your controller is rocking that. I'm using a Afterglow Xbox 360 wired controller, and I can tell you that it works for both PlayStation and Nintendo 64. I think it works for Dreamcast as well, but I'm kind of drawing a blank right now if I remember that correctly, but it should as well for Dreamcast. So get a good controller, and these games will run great, and it'll be just like you remembered playing that classic PlayStation. Yeah, buddy. 500 points. You hit start and full screen it. Nice. Let's go ahead and start again. There you go. Ooh. When you hit select, I think it moves it like that. If you want to go to the left side of the screen. Whoa. Look at those somersaults. Alright, let's get out of here. Start select. Get you out of there. So all the arcade games are going to have nice bezels for you, running really good. Looks like you even have some shooting games like Terminator 2. You can use your analog stick on this game. It's still totally fun. And then if you want to use a light gun, totally up to you. So once you set up your controls, these are working great. No lag. Cool games, and probably a lot of you haven't even tried these games. That's right, buddy. Uh-oh, there's a robot. Whoa, what the heck is that? Oh, it's morphin' time. Damn. Oh, now he punches faster. Let's see him now. Wow. Yeah, did you see this little somersault kick? That was pretty cool. Let's use his special. That's it? He just gets a little missile? Wow. I'm not doing so well here. Ooh. See, the eye thing is hard to avoid. I guess you got... Ooh. Once he starts it up. Let's just beat him really quick. There we go. Finishing move. Finishing move. Yeah. Got him. So final comments, this is a A+ image. I mean, I could tell that Virtual Man is a perfectionist. He listens to people. Speaking of which, I'm going to show you Tapatalk. So here I am on the V-Man Retro Gaming, tapatalk.com. It's free to register. Just go ahead and register. I'll put a link in the description below how to get directly to the V-Man Retro Gaming channel. And there's a little chat room here. I went ahead and hit it just cause, but there's a whole chat room that's live. There's a whole README on his images, general discussion. There's a lot of great things going on in this community, so I highly recommend you join it. If you have any like controller issues, or you're like, hey, why isn't this working, or what's a good emulation core for this, or you have an open board game that you can't get to work, this would be the place to ask those type of questions. And the community is looking great. He's looking to grow the community a lot. So if you're into retro gaming, you're into RetroPie, I highly suggest you give this a visit. And it's really great when somebody creates an image and then they're always kind of, making it better, improving on it, and listening to what people are saying. Because as you see, 11,000 games. I agree with everyone. That's way too many games. You're never going to play every single one. But at the same time, you see other people release these massive images and then they're just dumping ROM packs here and there, and they don't care whether they work or not. They're just, build the image before it's done, things like that. So that's why I think it's great and it's cool. And if you're into it, go ahead and click that link and support Virtual Man and the community. You may have seen this Rhodium build out on Arcade Punks in the past. There was like a Bluetooth issue with it and a couple other things he wanted to fix, so he removed it and he re-uploaded this one. That's just how perfect he wants his images, that everything about it is working great. So here we are. And as I mentioned, everything is working awesome. Everything from Daphne, Open Bore. I mean, the Super Nintendo, Nintendo's is kind of a given, right? Everyone's like, yeah, those should work. You should have box art. But the arcade set, the Open Bore, everything, all the ports, the huge PlayStation, all compressed down to fit on a 256 gigabyte image. The image is pi shrunk, so it'll fit on most 256 gigabyte SD cards. I mean, just all these little details. The controls are reset from boot. Every little detail that, new image makers will often make these mistakes. Those mistakes were not made. This is really, really, really well done. So with all that, I got to give it an A+. I don't see a single issue wrong with this. It's beautiful. It runs great. It's optimized. It works for 3 different Raspberry Pis. So all those things, sweet stuff. Shout out to Dwayne Hurst for all the great theme work, 2Play, V-Man, everyone who's helping out that community. And so with all that said, that's what I think. Let me know what you all think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.